Welcome back to this week's episode of Fuck the Mold, where we unpack boxes society tries to put us in. I'm your host, Jenna Lynn. Today we have with us our guest, Mo Pickering.
Hello.
So excited. She is my favorite ADHD bar owner in the Tampa Bay area. And I'm so excited to get some of her input on entrepreneurship and ownership of a business and walk through what that looks like. So we're just going to get right into it. Tell me about the dream of owning a bar and wanting to work for yourself.
Okay, so I've always been in hospitality. My first job, I think I was like 15 or whatever. I worked at a dry cleaners and it was hot. It was awful. So then I started serving. So I've always served, or I was a hostess with the mostest, and then I was whatever you needed. But I just love the customer service. I love making people happy. Around college, I was obsessed with Sex and the City. And I had a break from school. So I was like, I'm going to go grab a Cosmopolitan. I had no idea like what was in it. I just was like, that's cute. They drink it. They're adorable. I'll do it. So I go to this bar. It's called Europe Gyro or Hero, however you feel like pronouncing it. And I'm like, hi, I would like a Cosmopolitan. And it was this like very nasty, mean Greek lady. And she's like, I don't know how to make that. Da, da, da. Come back here and make it. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. So that was before like cell phones. So I was just like, I don't know, I'm just gonna make it pink. And she apparently, and it tasted nothing like I thought it would. And then she comes out, she's like, you should work here. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's how I got my job. I had absolutely
Wow.
no experience whatsoever. So then I just started reading books that don't help, because until you actually make the drink, you don't like retain anything. So I was there until I moved back down to Florida, and I just loved it. Like, you make great money. You don't have to work a 9 to 5. You don't have to work 5 days a week. You get your paycheck on site and you get to have shots with people. And at the time, like, you could still smoke in bars and we're dancing and play pool. Like, it was just fun for me. And then I graduated from college. Woo, wasted my money. But I got a job in my field, psychology. But I always bartended because I didn't get paid shit. Like, I think at the end of my 10-year career, I capped out at $37,000 a year, which is like, you can't live off that.
Yeah.
So I always bartended, and I always wanted to have my own bar, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know the money that goes into it. So it was always my dream. I thought I was going to be retired when I did it. Like, this is my little thing that, I go to work and whatever.
You said that it was a dream of yours for a long time. Did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, like work for yourself?
I never know what I want because my brain changes all the time. I am queen of finishing projects for other people in the bar. But when it comes to me, I have like 6 things that I'm like, and I could be a butterfly, and then I could also be a butterfly in Paris, and I could do this, and then I'm going to learn how to sew, and I'm going to learn how to do eyebrows and I buy all the things, and I look at it, I go, oh, I think I'm just going to go on my bike ride.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole pile of dreams and aspirations in a corner.
How has that kind of start and finish, like the ADHD side of it, how has that maybe hindered you in working for yourself?
I do best by myself. I get distracted with people because then they'll say something and my brain starts thinking, it's like the Google search. It's like, ooh, what else can I talk about? The one thing they talked about. We start bouncing ideas and then I go, ooh, what about this? What about this? What about this? And then I start planning that idea. And then I'm like, shit, I got to finish this though. I'll do that tomorrow. And then we talk about something else. So
you're like a walking rabbit hole.
Yeah. I have a calendar on my fridge with notes. I have a paper calendar and I have a note calendar. And then I have another note calendar of all my ideas.
Do you get like those moments of hyperfixation though, and then like a shit ton gets done, and then and then it's like, oh, okay, then we kind of made up for the lost time of going down the rabbit hole.
I've gone balls to the wall for like 15 hours in a row because I'm just like, okay, here's what I'm gonna get done today. And I'll tell people, I'm like, don't come to the bar. Do not bug me. Like, it's gonna distract me. I tell Dylan, I'm like, I'm in the zone. And he goes, all right, you call me whenever you want to call me. And he leaves me alone. I put my phone away. I put my music on. And then boom, all of a sudden, like 10 tasks are gone.
Yeah, you're like, leave me alone.
Yeah, I'm pretty efficient when I need to be efficient.
Yeah. So what was it like getting capital for opening the first bar?
So my capital wasn't necessarily like my own money. I did sweat equity for my first bar. Get ready to follow bouncing ball. Okay. When I was working with the kids, that was my full-time job. And I was working at a bar called Red Star in Seminole Heights. And when I decided to quit working with the kids, I approached them. I was like, hey, I could help you manage, but I need to make a certain amount of money to pay my bills. They just didn't have it in the budget. So I was like, unfortunately, I have to go to another bar and find full time. So then I ended up at First Chance, Last Chance in Ybor. And then that bar, one of the owners opened up another bar in Ybor, and they weren't doing good. And he would come into First Chance all the time. He's like, I really need you. And I'm like, I would love to help you because I want to see everybody succeed. But I'm like, I've put my all into this bar and I really love it here. And I'm not trying to risk this to go save a bar again, you know? And he came in, I'm telling you, for like 4 months, just kept coming in, kept coming in. He's like, anything you want, like, I'll do it. He was about to lose like $500,000. This was right around COVID. And where I was at, I kind of felt like unappreciated. And I did so much. And then during COVID, more was asked of me to do and less pay. I'm like, I'm not doing this. So I called him and I was like, all right, let's sit down. And I said, I want sweat equity and I want to change the name. I want to change the bar and you're a silent partner. So then that's how I started my first bar in the middle of COVID.
So you didn't necessarily have to put up a lump sum on the front end. It was really
Right.
just like, you know, month by month you were gaining some of that equity back from them.
Yeah. So sweat equity, I'm pretty sure everybody knows, but in case you don't, because I always ask questions, your sweat equity is however you can bring to like the business. So like for me, I could repair everything. I could staff it. I could be the manager. I could be behind the bar. I can make the cocktails, make the menus, print the menus, bring the DJ. Like I can do everything. So that's like the sweat of it. So you don't get a huge portion, but you get a small portion, which for me, I mean, I live beyond my means. I live below my means. So I was able to do it and still make money and save money. So it just depends on what the job is for the sweat equity.
It's nice that it kind of was pursued for you because maybe that opportunity of ownership might not have
Right.
hit you at that same time. And so I think for a lot of people, they talk about kind of the intersectionality between opportunity and kind of like the risk. And so what made it feel like to you that it was the right time or that risk was enough for you to be able to like chase your own dreams?
So I'm a hard worker. I always go above and beyond and I always do what's asked of me. And I think that transcends into my work. And I mean, it felt good. It felt good that somebody believed in what I can do and me as a person. And then at the time, I just kind of felt like that chapter at that bar was done and there was a new book. Like, honestly, I was like, fuck it. What do I have to lose? I can get a job bartending anywhere. You know, that's the fortunate thing about hospitality. So I was like, well, like, let's just try it because that's what I've always wanted to do. And it's a perfect opportunity. I know and know even more now how expensive it is to, in Florida, open up a bar that I'm like, that's risky. That's really risky. That's a lot of money.
Do you feel like maybe you might not be sitting where you are right now if that opportunity hadn't come? You know, do you think that you would have gone out of your comfort zone to seek out an opportunity similar to that?
I think I would have, but I mean, it's a lot of money. So I would have to either try and find a business partner or take out a loan. I think that's the scary part. I mean, your upfront cost, if you buy your liquor license out front, which most people can't because they're not available, is $400,000. So you could
Holy shit.
yeah,
I don't think I had any idea that it was that expensive.
400,000.
Like because people throw around that term all the time. They're like, oh, you get your liquor license, whatever. I had no idea it was that expensive.
And then you could rent it. So we rented our first liquor license. I mean, we did like a rent to own, but we paid, I want to say $1,700 a month for that liquor license.
Wow.
And then if you think retrospectively, if you just get a beer and wine, it's $500.
Oh.
Like mind blown. And it's more expensive in St. Pete.
Oh, okay.
I think it's like 30,000, which is if you're already doing 400.
Yeah.
So we call them like liquor license sharks. They go and they buy up all the license and then they rent them out or you buy them. However, if there's not one that exists, the only way to get, and I can only speak intelligently on like the Hillsborough County area, is there has to be 50,000 people new to that area to generate a liquor license.
Oh, okay.
So that's half the battle. It's like, let's just say you find a venue, you're like, oh, this is perfect. But if you don't have the liquor license, that's a risk that you have to think about. Like, okay, I can rent this building and it's going to cost me $5,000 a month, you know? But if you don't have your liquor license, you can't do anything with it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So does where are the delineations for the liquor license? It's just per, like you said, Tampa and St. Pete have
Hmm.
different ones. Is it per county? Is it
I
per
think it's per county, but like everything changes per county. So with Hillsborough, it's 50,000. It could be 60,000 somewhere else or 10,000. It just depends, and the prices are different too.
Interesting. Oh my
Yeah,
God. I had no idea it was that,
yeah.
because people throw that term around just
It's
so
it's all. I mean,
casually.
yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of people they'll get their beer and wine while they try and get their liquor license
Okay.
because it's only $500. That's why whenever people close their bars, immediately someone's like, "Let me get your liquor license. Let me get your liquor license,"
Oh
and
my
that's why
God.
you could sell the liquor license with your property for an insane amount of money. Like we're looking at a third bar, and just the property alone, because we have a liquor license, he wanted I think it was $700,000 just for the property because it's in South Tampa. So
Yeah.
it's like. So think about it. If you want a bar, if you're putting 700K out, you need to get a liquor license, or let's just say you have one. Well, then now you have to get the insurance, and then you have to do the renovations, and it's a lot of money.
So is the liquor license tied to you or your LLC or your corp,
Yeah.
or okay.
So I can open in Hillsborough County. I can open a bar anywhere with my liquor license. It doesn't matter about the address, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But you
But
can't
you can hold
share.
multiple entities under that same liquor.
No, it's
Oh, I
only for
see.
one bar.
I see.
So the crazy thing is, if you have two bars next to each other, you have to have two different liquor license.
Oh my God.
If they have a different address, so they're not like, let's just say you have like 2010 and then 2010 and a half. They're different addresses, so you have to have two. Politics. Or liquor tits. I don't know, whatever.
White Lie was the first bar. Going into that, were there people, especially like you're saying, you had a different vision for what that bar looked like? Were there people who doubted what that vision looked like, or your capabilities? Obviously, you had someone who believed in you,
Yeah.
but were there other people who were doubters in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Haters. Um, you know,
Do we even remember them now?
uh,
She's like, I keep a bird book.
I think it's more or less like, do I have what it takes to be a business owner in such a male driven industry that is saturated with filth? Like there's just a lot of funky stuff in hospitality. And then the building, this is a bring around story. So the building that White Lie was in was actually my first bartending job when I moved to Tampa.
Little White String.
Yo, the green iguana, and it's cursed. So everything that goes in there always fails. Since green iguana closed, it's just never worked. That's one thing that a lot of people were like, "You're never gonna make it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, like, cool. I'm still gonna try." And then opening up a bar during COVID, we had a lot of people, which is completely out of my control, hate on us because we were able to open because we had food. So then everybody, all the surrounding bars were pissed off at me for the the rules and laws that I didn't make. And then I guarantee you, I don't give a fuck what anyone says. There are people that don't want you to be successful. It's like
Absolutely.
because they're not, they want to keep you down with them. So I know I had a handful of people that did support me. They helped me do the renovations. They were there. But I guarantee you, all the people were like, good luck. We're like, I hope she fails.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, like when you start up a business, it's like you have some support, but you have the people that don't want you to succeed. Then you have the people who want to help you, but it's a cost. Like, oh, I'll come help you, but how much are you going to pay me? You're like, dude, you're my friend. Like, just help
Yeah.
me. Here's a beer. Shut up. Put stuff on the wall. But the people that had my back is what got me through it.
Well, and definitely people who understand that the friendship is a give and a take. So it's like, I would hope that they would understand that if they needed something, that you're like, I show up for you too, and that's kind of that give and a take. And so I'm sure you found out a lot about people's character
Oh, so much.
throughout that process.
So
Because
much.
that's a scenario that tests people's character, but that's not a scenario that happens often. So you learn so much through that, and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have known this if this
Hmm.
specific context wasn't put in our face right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And now it's like, oh, I see you for who
Hmm.
you are.
Well, and then you also have the people who I thought were my friends turned out not to be. People who I thought were like my supporters were just, why can't I not think of the word? Not a rat, an informant. like just using me for information to like use against me or to like kind of start drama. Like that was a hard pill to swallow, is like kind of seeing that maybe we weren't friends. We were just work associates, and like you were using me for the copious amounts of money that my bar put in your pocket. And then when things change and people can't take things from you anymore, then you kind of realize the friendship kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was hard at first, but now I'm just like, now there's less people I got to put my energy into.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you realize that there's people who are like, oh, our friendship is actually contingent on you being able to fund me or
right.
you being able to do XYZ or support me in this
Yeah.
way. And it's like, oh, I thought we were actually friends, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's a hard pill to
I thought you
swallow.
cared for me. You cared about my pockets.
Exactly. But that's okay.
We learn,
That's
we live and
life.
we learn.
That's life, girl. That's
But we
life.
don't forget.
No. I'm an elephant. Okay. The hyperactive one just bouncing around.
So while you were building up the business, obviously you had someone who believed in you. Were they able to kind of mentor you through that process, or
No, I was all by myself. He didn't give a fuck. He was like, oh, finally somebody to take over this business so I don't have to do shit. Like literally he was just like, I'll just figure it all out. Cause he's an accountant by nature, right? So he did a lot of the figuring out like for payroll. So I'd submit it to him and then he would do all that. But so 99% of the job I did. And he didn't even care. Cause he just kept seeing his money finally come back. So he was fucking sitting pretty. He was like, oh, so now I have my money back. I don't have to do shit. This is amazing. He has a family too, so I get that, you know. Yeah, no mentorship at all.
So I guess I'm sure you learned a fuck ton in those beginning
Yeah.
stages and like teaching everything yourself. What were the resources that you leaned on to learn? Was it just like trial and error, or were you still reading like books about things, or
Googling things, but I'm like an in-person person. So
and you ask questions?
I have
Yeah.
so many questions. I was that kid in school. They're like, yes, Mo. I'm like, okay, so listen, I have a question. Just okay.
Stay with me.
Yeah, follow the bouncing ball. But I ask questions a lot. I don't understand why some people feel that they're inadequate if they ask for help or clarity. So for me, I would ask other people that have businesses, whether that's a bar or not, or people that do have bars, or that are just successful, that they can help me be a better me for the bar. And I would ask them questions like, what would you do in this situation? Even during COVID, we had a lot of issues going on that I had to do some interviews, and I wanted to make sure that I was professional for once in my life. I would talk with other people that have had bars for decades and say, hey, how would you respond to this? Or what would you do in this situation? Because they're successful for a reason. So like take what they're saying and apply it however that is to, you know, the situation.
It's kind of whatever your image of yourself is. So like when you started working on White Lie, you were like, I'm a hard worker and I'm capable. So
I'm an independent woman. That's what I said.
So when you're asking people these questions, you're not worried about what they think of, like, do they think I'm incapable or unintelligent?
No, I do think about that though.
Oh, but like you just don't care.
Sometimes it's like a 50-50 split. So like for the most part, my upbringing was my dad's like, just respect people and just do whatever the fuck you want. Dress however you want. Just make sure you respect people. That has been my downfall that I learned from, is I need to stop worrying about what people think about me and the work that I put into my bar and how I got my bar and what I'm doing with my bar. Because at the end of the day, it's just me. And fuck all y'all. Like, if you don't like the person I am, if you don't think I'm a good bar owner, if you don't think whatever, like, that's totally cool. I don't have to explain my story to you. So that was hard for me, is to like change my thinking into, okay, I hear you. You're in my way. I need to move. You know what I mean? Like just kind of doing that. Cause yeah, for a long time, I was just like, I wouldn't want to do certain things because I didn't want to like piss off my staff. I didn't want to upset anybody. Whereas if it was a man, they'd be like, what I fucking tell you to do, fucking do it. And you're like, oh my God, okay. And me, I'm like, hi. So I know that you're late from getting your lashes done, but can we just like not do that again? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is a difference in the industry, and that's why I think we do have to try a little bit harder, because we're emotional creatures by nature. So things are different.
So I mean, you have a lot of people giving opinions at all times,
and it never stops, even when I don't ask for it.
Who do you find that you can trust, and how do you get to that process of knowing who's in your circle batting for you and that their advice is like really for you there to win?
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. I would say Dylan for sure, my fiance. He always has my back. It's hard because you don't really know the true intentions of people until they're tested, right?
Right.
As far as like opinions and advice, I just try and filter through what applies to the situation I'm asking about.
So what were some of the early setbacks that you had that almost made you quit, and what made you not quit?
So those are just always ongoing. Always ongoing.
She's
I
like, I
would
actually have
say,
night terrors.
yeah, oh, God, I dream about work all the time. Like that's why I have to take a gummy every night. Well, my brain is the first one. My brain's the first one, but I very creative, and I never stop thinking about the bar and other people too. Like with you, I'm like, oh, you know what? Jenna would love that. And then I'm like, I gotta tell her right now. You think about a lot of things. I wake up in the middle, like, I can't get for you. Like you dream of your job, but the setbacks would be the lifestyle. It's hard. It's 24/7. So even though we're open, from 5 to 3, something always happens. Something always breaks. There's a fight or an incident report or staff or scheduling or money, or it's just all these things. And sometimes when it rains, it pours. So you're like, fuck, I need a break. Like, can one thing not take a shit and die? Can one person just show up to their shift? Can you just not cry? Like, it's just so many things that you're like, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I want to clock in and clock out, have a 9 to 5, KC bye. So there's I want to say like weekly setbacks, but then realizing and saying to myself, like, I fucking own a bar and I did it myself and I'm successful, and we get recognition all over for everything, like the cocktails, the bartenders, the vibe, what we do for the community, and then just seeing everybody happy and knowing like we did this together,
Yeah.
So that brings me back in, and I'm like, I don't do good at 9 to 5. I don't sit well. I like to take vacations and I like to wear my stretchy pants. So like those are not adequate for 9 to 5.
No. Unfortunately. Well, and you've built such a big community at your bar too, and that must feel like home and like kind of remind you why you do it.
White Lie was my baby. Like that was my favorite bar because not only did we create an amazing, busy spot that no one thought we could do, the eclectic people that came in there and them feeling like this is home, and people be like, you really saved me, or I love coming here, and you just see all walks of life. That was like, that made me so happy. They just tell you over and over again, like how much they love the bar and the people and the staff and whatever. That is like, okay, thank you.
The first bar did end up closing.
Well, we had no choice.
Okay, walk me through some of that. I've actually never heard this story.
So Ybor, like most up and coming cities, have like their own master plan that we're not privy to. From this particular situation, they're trying to convert Ybor into an armature works, which it's your money. You do what you want, right? I like the way the Ybor used to be. I have been there for 16 years and I've seen it boom, crash, boom, crash. Wait, boom and crash. Yeah, boom and crash. Okay. From my understanding, and this is, and I'll never know the answer to this. Our bar was not their ideal bar that they wanted in Ybor. I'm not stupid. Sometimes I am. But in this situation, I'm pretty sure the person who is trying to do all the transformation in Ybor threw the owner of the building some money. Because if you're trying to redo all the shit, trust me, you got some money. And probably just was like, don't renew the lease, because that's what happened. So we went to go sign it, and I was like, fuck, how much more is this going to cost me a month? Because we're already paying $15,000 in rent.
Wow.
And the guy that owns the building, just plain and simple, he was just like, we're not renewing your lease. There was no answer, no nothing. I've also known him for a long time because I used to work there when I first moved, and then just having the bar there, there's no, if you're not going to get answers, you're not going to get it. So I just was like, okay, cool. And then we tried to get another bar in Ybor, the old First Chance. I sat down with the owner of First Chance, and he gave me first rights to the bar because he knows how much I love that bar. And then the same motherfucker who's trying to do all this to Ybor owns that building and denied my lease.
They're in the burn book.
I'm
They're
like,
in the burn book for sure.
okay, all right. That's not personal or anything.
Sleep with one eye open.
Yeah. So then, I just looked at it and I was like, and White Lie was a lot. It was a lot because it was a huge building. We were so busy on Friday, Saturday nights, we had to have 5 security. just with like the line and going back and forth. And then there's fights, like not necessarily at our bar, but just in Ybor. And then there's
Yeah.
shootings, and there's just the everything that you deal with. And it was a lot. It was 24/7. It was always some shit going down. And at that time, I had Gypsy when we closed. I want to say I had Gypsy for almost 2 years. So I felt like I was kind of neglecting Gypsy because that was my focus. So I just was like, you know what? Maybe this is life telling me to slow down and focus on the one bar that's not the pain in the ass, and realize like what I did was awesome, and it's proof that I can do it, but now I need to like focus on that.
When did White Glide close?
I'm not counting or anything like that, but it was a year and a half ago on New Year's Eve.
She's like, I have a D-Day party every year.
That was sad. That was so sad because there's a lot of positive and negative things that came out of it. People showed their true colors to me, friends and people that work for me, with White Lie, and having basically been abandoned when we closed. Like they no longer helped out or whatever. And that's just people, right? You don't know shitty people until they do you wrong.
Right.
But it was sad because hearing from the community and hearing from people about, I mean, they're crying to me and they're like, this is, where am I going to go? And hearing that, where am I going to go? This is the only place I felt comfortable and like it was home. I was just like, damn. I mean, that just showed me the amazing job that we did. But then I felt sad. I was just like, well, yeah, you're right. Where are these people going to go?
I'm sure closing the first bar was a very transformative experience as an entrepreneur. What was one of the biggest lessons or takeaways that you learned from that process?
To be more of an asshole. Like
I love
to,
that.
I just learned that I'm too nice. Regardless if anybody says whatever, I'm a sweetheart. I can be me when I need to be. But yeah, I mean, I think because I didn't want anybody to not like me because I had to reprimand because you didn't do your job, which
Yeah.
is insane to think about, right? I gave way too many chances. I looked the other way when I should have been like, oh, you're fired, but I was like, oh, I just feel bad. She's going through it or he's going through it and I'm here for you. Oh, yeah, I'll figure it out. Like that, it was always, I'll figure it out. And then I realized that I was stressing myself out. I was stopping my day to correct other people's last minute decisions. And like, that's what I learned is like, I'm not stopping my day for you. You need to figure this out now. Like, I am not Captain fucking Save-A-Ho. I am not a firefighter. I sweat enough. So that's what I've learned.
What was some things that you had done differently with Gypsy that, you had learned from the first go around?
It really was just closing my lie that I started doing things differently. I mean, I definitely had to put my foot down on a lot of things. And I know at the time people don't see it. It's always like, oh, she's on one. She's a bitch. She's a cunt. And it's like, no, but like your actions are what brought me here. And like, I don't want to be an asshole, but you also are fucking up. So it's hard because it's hard for people to understand that like this is your baby, this is also your job too, and you're here to make sure that like things go smooth. And if you wouldn't have fucked up, then we wouldn't be here. I always tell people like if you don't hear from me, you're doing something right. Being more authoritative with that, and then that's pretty much it. It's
Yeah.
just
Walk me through like opening Velvet Gypsy and like what do those conversations and decisions look like?
one of the things that I wanted to do with my business partners when I talked with him when we first were opening White Lie. He had the other bar I first started at, and I was like, when you close that bar, I want first dibs on that. Like I have a vision that I want to do with that bar. And he says, okay. So then they were closing. And because I don't live beyond my means, like I just save money, I was very proud of myself. I saved a fuck ton of money to actually buy in, and we're equal partners, which that felt really good. Is like, it's hard when you look at the money you're saving, you're like, oh, I want to spend it and I want to go all over the world. But then you're like, no, because when that day comes, I want to be able to have the money to make this happen. So because that was already an established bar, he had everything already set up, just like he did with White Lie.
Yeah.
So I just basically came in and I said, I'll do all the renovations and the same thing. Like you just don't do shit.
But you had some equity up front in
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yep. So if anybody's interested in getting a bar, the initial cost, I guess, is what you're kind of referring to, is like, one, you find the building, then you have to find a liquor license, then you have to get insurance for your liquor license, then you have to get insurance for the building if you don't own it. Then you have to get payroll, and then you have to get a fuck ton of money in the bank, because in order for you to start an account for like Southern, JJ Taylor, Pep, and like all your brands, you have to have a substantial amount of money in the bank to cover that cost, which can be, I mean, we go through probably about 8 grand of product a week. So you have to have money saved up. You got to figure out, I always tell people, just because your vision is what you want doesn't mean that it's going to work in the area that you're at. I'm going to open up like a crazy EDM nightclub in Nashville. And you're like, but why?
Yeah.
You know, or you want to open up a karaoke bar in front of a karaoke bar. You're like, that doesn't make sense. So you have to take what you want to do and kind of mold it to where you're at. And a lot of people, they don't do that. And I think that's why a lot of businesses fail for a lot of reasons. One is you have too many chiefs. You don't have the money, or you don't have the time. You don't have people that you can trust to help run your business. So then you run ragged. And then that's when they end up losing a shit ton of money.
Yeah. They're not doing like the market research.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it with another country bar opened up in Ybor called Saddlebags, but there's a huge established country bar in Tampa already, the Dallas Bull. So it's like, why would you open up, and you think Ybor's country, like enough to fill that? It's like 500, 900 people that go in the club. That's a lot of cowboys.
Space.
And then where are they at? Plant City?
A lot of kicking boots.
I'll tell you what.
Okay, so you mentioned that you guys are looking to expand. What does that look like? What do the next steps look like for you in the future?
So we did have a potential spot, but that's the one in South Tampa that they wanted $700,000, and it wasn't a bar. So we already have a liquor license. We got it wet zoned. I don't want to say where it's at because it's still, I think, vacant, but it wasn't a bar. So then I'm like, okay, back of the napkin, I have to get the beer coolers and all the 3-tiered sinks and and those jokers are expansive, like super expensive. And then I have to do all the renovations, and then I wanted to build a patio, and it's just so much money. So we're trying to incorporate that into like the cost of what we would have to come up with. And I'm like, if you're 700K out the gate just for the building, you're looking at a $1 million renovation and hopes that people come, which they will. But anyways, I would like to get another bar. Have always wanted to get a speakeasy, but the problem is
Yes.
right. So that's actually so Gypsy originally, above Big Easy, which is now Fat Tuesdays, which I don't know how they got their lease, but whatever. Above that was this old, well, first it was a cigar lounge. Or no, it was James Joyce, then a cigar lounge, and it must have caught fire. So there was a lot of fire damage. But I was like, it'd be freaking rad is if we get this spot, we could do like a key or a speakeasy vibe from White Lie, because it's right next door. And then I was gonna have like, actually, I'm not gonna give you my theme because someone will take it. But it was gonna be this awesome speakeasy loungy kind of area. But then when you do the numbers, and that's the thing, is you need to do your numbers first, is okay, so rent's this, and then payroll, and then your insurance, and then you have to get all the garnishments and how much are you going to take away? Because if you're busting your ass for, you're taking $1,000 home, for me, that's not worth it, because the risk is so high. And that's the thing about speakeasies. If you own your liquor license, then you're in a better state, because you don't have to worry about paying the fee, but you don't make a lot of money because the time it takes to make a craft cocktail, and then all the garnishments that go with it, and it's just time consuming. So sometimes they're not successful because you're walking away with pennies. So I would love to find my dream speakeasy. I just don't know when that's going to happen. The pub, or the other one we're going to do in South Tampa, is going to be a pub, which I'm super stoked about that. But
yeah, but like you're saying, like playing to the market strength, so you want to make sure that the place you find is like, this feels right, whether it be the price point, the location, all the things, like all of them align so that it feels like the risk is worth it for all the potential that you see with that property.
Yeah. And if, and people who are interested in getting a bar, I can tell you, even though my haters think I don't do shit ever except fuck off on a yacht, like the things that people think that I do, I'm like, but unbeknownst to others, I literally work 24/7. So I'm constantly like, what new drinks are out there? What about the menu types? I make the flyers. I do the drink menus. I'm like, what are the new trends that people are doing? and look at that for your bar. You know, if you have an English pub, then start researching like what is like the authenticity behind this concept that I have so that you can execute it. A lot of times people are like, well, I was a bartender, so like I can own a bar. And you're like, okay, girl, I have faith in you.
But like a vision, like having
Right.
a fully developed concept, like you're saying, there's so many different variables and facets to it, and being educated on making sure that your customers are having an experience in your bar. And that's like when you're talking about how loyal some of your customers have been in that community you've built, it's because of the experience you've given them.
I've seen it multiple times where you walk into a bar, you're like, well, there's 3 different concepts just mushed together. And some of those work, right? Like when you go into a dive bar that you're like, there's bras on the ceiling, nothing fucking works, beer's warm, but it's $2 for beer. It's like, that's what you go there for. But I think if you have a concept, you need to do it 100%. So like with Gypsy is I wanted to do like a Wanderlust Gypsy kind of boho vibe. So I had to create that. I couldn't have modern furniture and it look all like beautiful and crisp and clean in a boho bar, but I don't want it to be so bohemian that it like scares more like the male and like I don't like this. This is like too girly for me. Like
Yeah.
you know, it's like you have to figure out like you're in between. You can have a great vision and do it. And there's many times I'm like, I don't like that. Let's take it down. Take it down. Let's like redo it. So
From like furnishing my house, sometimes I'll have a vision for something, or even like thrifting stuff, I'll see something, I'm like, no, I have a vision for this, and my mom's like, okay, sometimes you try it and then you're like,
yeah.
nope, scratch that. It didn't work. That wasn't what I was picturing. But it's kind of, you do have to have a little bit of a humbleness to be like, oh, this isn't what I see, but the vision
Yeah.
is that important that we need to redo it if it
Yeah.
doesn't work. I have my last question,
Okay.
which is always asking people for advice on my show. So what advice would you give to someone who is looking to be their own boss, and what would you say is how to make that a reality for them?
I would just say that never be afraid to fail because it's just money at the end of the day. And I know it's a lot of money, but the most successful people take the biggest risk. And you can't be successful with just the wind blowing because then everybody would be. And I remember I talked with this guy who owned a nightclub in Ybor because I was trying to gain some understanding about how to like manage my staff. I would just complain. I'm like, God, like I just want them to be like me. That I come into work and if something's told, I do it. And hi, my name's Mo. Here's our menus. Can I start you off with this? And super like hospitality and come into work and stop fucking calling off and just being that A player. And he said to me, he was like, if more people were like you wouldn't be successful. And I'm like, dang, that's right. So I think reaching out to other people too and never be afraid. I don't understand why people are so afraid to ask questions or to gain perspective from somebody else. I am definitely a question asker and I don't understand. I don't know if people think that like they're less like, well, maybe they look at me like I'm not successful because I asked them a question. It's like, okay, well, now you're going to look stupid when you fail. Have your vision and just believe in yourself, like truly believe in yourself and just know that at the end of the day, no one's going to love your blank like you do. Just believe in you and have awesome people around you. That's the thing is like you gotta have people that support you, but also know, sorry, I can't make it because I have to do this. And that was hard for me is it's just me, so if something breaks, I have to fix it. If I was supposed to be in a meeting and it goes longer, I might be late. I've had to cancel tattoo appointments because I'm like, I would love to, but somebody called out. I have to go in. Or the fucking roof is coming through and I have to wait for whatever. Just know that there's always going to be ups and downs, but you should have more ups and downs. And then when it's time to get out, just get out. Don't hold on to a dying thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you so much for coming on this show
absolutely.
today. There's been so much enlightenment about, the structure of entrepreneurship and kind of how resourceful you've been and all of the perils that you've gone through to make it to here. And like it might not be easy, but you're also just a badass bitch, doing
I
the
love
damn
it.
thing. So
Thanks.
thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and we will see you next week.
Bye. See ya.